Yo, what's good YouTube? It's Borty, and this is going to be the full review of the Ninjutso Origin 1X. This was sent out to me by them, and is a sample of their first ever mouse, but that does not change the way that I am going to treat it. It is $80, so it is extremely affordable as like premium wireless mice go, and I would say that this is a premium mouse. All of the features are top of the line, aside from really the 3335 and this fucking abhorrent coding. But yeah, whenever I try a new mouse and I don't really know what I'm getting into, like if it's a new company, for example, I really do try to give it like some rigorous quality testing. And I can say that there are some minor issues, like there's a bit of bottom flexing, nothing compared to like my Hot ES. Really the sides, there's like no creaking or flexing. It's very impressive how strong this mouse is, coming in at 65 grams and not being a small mouse, but it's by no means large. It's a medium-sized ergo, and I tend not to enjoy mice like these, but I was really caught off guard by the shape. I've never used the IntelliMouse shape. I've seen it, but I obviously couldn't imagine how it would feel, and I was just literally blown away by how well it works for my claw grip. It's not really forcing me anywhere. The sides have so much vertical room, which is something I just really love with like large and wide hands. But getting back into quality, one place where the quality isn't the best is on these clicks. You can see this is like worse than my G Pro Superlight, tons of wobble, but like I said, this is a sample, so if they're able to iron out issues like these in a retail copy, that's obviously ideal. That's sort of like what Endgame did with the XM1. The side buttons, like all wireless mice, or just like mice in general, they have a bit of pre-travel. They are glossy, and one thing to note, if you play fingertip, or at least my fingertip, like look at where my thumb is on this mouse. There is no way I'm fucking hitting this mouse 5, but I do play a bit of Fortnite now, and with claw I can easily hit it. It's in a pretty good place, but if you have smaller hands, the side buttons might be a bit hard to reach, as you can see. Now I'm just going to talk about the coding, because man, I think that this coding is awful. I've seen mixed things. I've seen people compare it to like the Superlight and the KPU, and I just don't get it. It is like sort of rubberized in that sense, but like you can see how badly it's picking up fingerprints, and it's like it's extracting like water from my hands. It's literally like drenched in sweat that just like straight up doesn't exist. And I really just want to clarify, because I see a lot of people in Ninjutso themselves saying that the coating is just like a fingerprint magnet. It's definitely more than that, at least for me. I mean, it's February in New York City right now. I don't have any heat in my room. My hands are like constantly fucking cold, and I touch this mouse and it just like picks up so much sweat. Where is the sweat coming from on my otherwise seemingly dry hands? But yeah, coding rant aside, I would love to see this change. Like, look at that, dude. My fingers just are not wet right now. This is a sham, a complete and utter sham. And I would love to see the coding addressed on a final version, but maybe it is just more of an issue for me than anybody else, but it just feels like it's extracting fucking water from my bloodstream. The switches are Kill 8.0s, and they feel incredibly snappy. I did mention that they have some quality issues, but you see here where I'm clicking, there actually is a good bit of wobble. I don't know, can't notice it in game. Maybe I will start to notice it in game as it gets worse over time, but they feel very nice switches. Not like as heavy to activate as the XM1R, but certainly heavier than something like the Superlight or a standard Omron switches. And I really do think that this click provides a lot of tactility, and it is definitely a premium experience. And at $80, I feel like this mouse can kind of be compared to the Model O wireless, and I think that the specs on this mouse are more promising than on something like a Glorious mouse. And now I just want to get into the shape and weight of this mouse, and this is honestly what surprised me most. I mentioned before that the shape caught me off guard. I had never tried the IntelliMouse, and this is a significantly smaller version, and I think the size is pretty close to perfect for people with medium to large hands who play claw or redacted grip. I just was not expecting to enjoy an ergo this much for claw. But literally, the moment I put my hand on this mouse, I was like, whoa, this shape is pretty fucking sick. My thumb has maybe, I don't know the last time my thumb has felt so comfortable on a mouse, and I really enjoy the right side as well. And nothing about the shape is really too aggressive, at least at my hand size. Also, something I noticed immediately out of the box was the intense DPI deviation. I did the testing, and on average, I got between 840 and 850, but I do use mouse acceleration Excel. Obviously, for the test, I had the Excel disabled. But when I use Mouse Excel and I have significant DPI deviation like this, it's amplified. So this mouse literally felt so fucking fast. It took me a good amount of tinkering to actually get it on a sense that I felt comfortable with. Like, obviously I could adjust, but why would I when I could just stick on the same sense? And the one thing I also don't like, or another thing I guess, is the fact that there's no software for this mouse. I feel like with wireless mice, going for a complete plug-and-play approach, like, yes, the mouse should function perfectly fine out of the box, but I don't see why we can't check the battery, change the fucking debounce time, all of that shit in the software. Doing it on board is kind of odd, and there is only one liftoff distance setting, and it's 1 millimeter. Haven't had any issues with that, but I just find it kind of strange that a wireless mouse has no software. If you want to change the polling rate, you can hold the side buttons for 3 seconds each, and it'll flash on the DPI button. And if the battery's low, it flashes red on the DPI LED indicator. And yeah, I just don't really like the fact there isn't software, because I can't just adjust the DPI by increments of 50 or 100. Because if I could go on like 700 or 750 DPI, that would more or less solve my problem. But I'm just unable to do that, and that's just kind of a yikes. But yeah. That aside, the charging situation currently, they provide a USB-C cable. It's the only cable I have that fits in the mouse, as you can see. But yeah, USB-C based. And currently the mouse also does not come with an adapter, so I've just been rocking with the glorious one. So if you have an adapter, it will work, but it will come with one at launch, so I feel like I should mention that, but the reviewer samples didn't. I have only had to charge this mouse once in over a week of using it, so it seems like most wireless mice, aside from the fucking Ponage one, I guess because that has RGB, seem to last like pretty long. I'm pretty satisfied with it, but nothing compares to a Superlight, of course. And now I'm going to talk about the weight. It weighs in at 65 grams on my scale, and similar to the Superlight, the weight feels to be like extremely evenly dispersed. No problems with the weight balancing. And on like a longer, I guess, mouse like this, I'm not used to using mice this long. It's very nice to feel, and it makes it feel very light, accompanied by the feet, which the top ones actually aren't rounded, which seems to make them faster on like control pads like the Inked gaming pad. But the bottom ones are rounded. It's kind of odd how they decided not to just like fill in this gap, but you know, they are just doing them. And I really haven't had any problems with these in actual use. I think that they're very solid for stock feet, but of course, with stock feet, it seems like there's always room to improve. So yeah, scroll wheel, I don't know what encoder it's using. It sort of has like the texture of a G305 scroll wheel, but just better. I'm honestly a major fan of it. I've been enjoying this mouse just for like casual scrolling, but I'm not going to be fucking cringe and say I palm gripped it, because like every other mouse, I just cannot palm grip it comfortably. This literally looks like an alien interacting with a mouse. It's just sickening. But yeah, the side buttons, I think they use Kale red dot switches. I don't know. I honestly have not heard of them, not a side button expert. And like I mentioned before, there is a bit of travel, but I think they are very well defined. And the positioning is iffy for people with smaller hands. But yeah, I honestly don't think that these side buttons are inherently flawed. They do feel very nice to actually like, click them. They're not like mushy or scratchy. Very surprising. And I mentioned before about the 3335. I haven't had any problems with the connectivity on this, meaning like no latency issues, no like fucking stuttering or anything. The connection has been perfectly fine, but that DPI deviation absolutely is a stinger. Also, the coding, I've mentioned before how much I hate it. I just can't give this mouse the seal of approval in its current state. I'm pretty happy with the quality. There is a bit of rattling on mine, but like I mentioned, I was giving this mouse some rigorous testing. I gave it the punch test a few times, and it holds up. So very impressive. I'm probably not going to be using the sample too much, because when the coding on a mouse is bad and you're just constantly interacting with the coding, it is kind of a turnoff. But if they send me an updated version, like on the retail copy, I would be happy to re-review it. Similar to like the original XM1, like I said before, I feel like Ninjutso has a ton of potential. It's honestly like shocking to me that this is their first mouse, coming in at 65 grams, doing a shape that really not many people have tried to clone, and doing it so well. This is a mouse that if it makes some like necessary changes, I would be able to recommend to a vast majority of the people. And yeah, that's really going to be all for this video. This is 100% my favorite ergo shape, and like I said, I'm ecstatic to try this mouse out in its future forms. But for now, I mean, you guys just got to consider that it has a few flaws. But yeah, that's going to be all for this video. Peace. Make sure to leave a like and sub.